Mollie Hemingway of Fox News and the Federalist. Good morning, Mollie, and good Monday to you.
Good morning. Great to be here with you.
Did you go to see either Barbie or Oppenheimer, or Barbieheimer as it's being called by the tabs today?
I did. Well, Christopher Nolan is my favorite director. I actually went to see Barbie for other reasons, and it was something.
Well, tell me about that because I got the grandkids with me, and I put the big veto on Barbie, even for an 11-year-old. I didn't want any part of it. What'd you think?
Oh, I think that would be wise. My one big regret about it is that it kind of introduces concepts of anti-womanhood to a younger crowd. I love being female. I love that my parents made me feel like it was a great thing to be a girl, and it just has this aspect of it where it acts like being a woman is awful and impossible. It actually says being a woman is impossible. And I just don't like to introduce those concepts. And so one of the girls I was with was 14, and I don't think she'd ever even encountered that because of the way she's been raised until that movie. And so, but I'm not completely criticizing it. It was a beautifully done film. It is accidentally anti-feminist. I mean, I even was talking with her about it. It made her realize that a lot of feminism is about taking the joy out of life. And I think that's a wonderful thing for someone to learn because I want her to be, I want all girls to be happy being girls. So, I don't want to be too critical. It just is definitely kind of lame in parts.
And the reviews I read said it introduces politics into a Barbie narrative. And so I thought it was just going to be a funny movie, but it's not. I read the reviews on that before I take a grandkid anywhere. So that's a no. Oppenheimer, though, I can't wait to see. I'm not going to see it with kids, but it's got a role for Roger Robin, the first judge I clerked for on the D.C. Circuit, who was one of the prosecutors of Oppenheimer. So I'm very interested to see how he's cast. What do you think about Christopher Nolan generally?
I've always enjoyed his movies. I like his discussions of time. I think Interstellar is just amazing, but I've liked, a lot of them going, Memento and earlier. I love his use of music too. Like in Interstellar, one of the main parts I feel like is played by an organ. The music is always such a key part, and it is integrated in a way that is meaningful. And so I very much enjoy him. So I will definitely be going to see it, even though I've read David Harsanyi, my colleague's stuff on Oppenheimer and the dangers of glorifying a communist and whatnot.
Right, he's a fellow traveler at a minimum. And Roger Robb was always proud of his work on that. But I still want to see a Nolan movie on Oppenheimer. Mollie, let's turn to the two big issues, what I'm going to ask the vice president about. First of all, the dictator of Belarus, Lukashenko, said that he's trying to keep the Wagner group from attacking to Warsaw. And Putin is warning of Poland's plan to attack Belarus. What would your reaction be to any incursion into Poland by Wagner or Belarus or Russian forces?
Well, it would be a horrific thing, but I think one thing we've learned about this war is that Russia and its affiliated groups, like the Wagner Group, had overestimated their capabilities. It would be extremely unlikely and unwise to invade Poland, given the European construct there. So I don't really see that as happening. Now, having said that, I do think all the NATO-affiliated countries should be very careful on how they don't move in a way to escalate any conflict here and make it worse than it already is.
We've got American troops in Poland, and I think we are obliged by NATO Article 5. I'm going to confirm this with the vice president. Even if mercenaries attack a country, just like the jihadists attacked the United States and all of our NATO allies came to our aid, we ought to come to the aid of Poland if that were to happen. And I think being clear about that deters it.
Well, two things. You'd want to make sure everyone knows the Wagner Group is controlled by the Russians, so it's a distinction without a difference perhaps there. But you'd have to make sure. There's been a lot of misinformation and disinformation in this war, and a lot of attempts to get people more involved. You've had, stray attacks being regarded as planned when they weren't, just as an attempt, or people blaming Russia for things that later turned out maybe weren't Russia, all clearly an attempt to exacerbates conflict. The other thing about Article 5 is that, yeah, that's why it's so serious when countries enter. We are saying, if you attack this country, it's like you attacked Nebraska, and we're going to come after you. It's a very serious thing to form an alliance. But Article 5 still says that this is how Congress decides. Article 5 means for us that not that it's an automatic entry, but that Congress would have to debate and decide to go to full war.
Okay, I will ask the Vice President about that. Now I want to turn to Israel, where they are voting on the reasonability standard, revoking it basically or altering it. And I don't have opinions on domestic issues in other countries. I do follow their constitutional law debates for comparative constitutional law reasons. I am astonished that Joe Biden intervened in a domestic political dispute in Israel that has nothing to do with us, and that Tom Friedman wrote a column yesterday saying, you're the only one who can save Israel today like Nixon did 50 years ago in the Yom Kippur War. What is up with these people? Not the Israelis. They can have their own debate and come to their own resolution via democratically elected representatives. Controversial, it's hot. But what in the world does Biden think he's doing here?
I mean, I'm not astonished because it seems like the type of thing that he would do, getting involved in a weird way on a domestic political issue. The situation in Israel is really important. I mean, the way that they have renegade courts has caused major problems. It is a dispute worth having, even if, regardless of how it turns out. But I think that Biden tends to view countries as vassal states and that he can control them. And he's very supportive of how we handled Ukraine in that matter. I think he thinks that because of aid that we give to Israel, that we get a say in how they run their country. It's not how diplomacy should work, and it doesn't lead to strong situations in the aftermath, but I'm not surprised.
He rejected the advice of his Secretary of Defense to name a new CNO, Admiral Paparo, I believe, in favor of another admiral, and I'm sure it'll be fine for the Navy, but what do you think it was the first woman CNO, first woman member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. What do you think about that decision?
I don't know enough about it to say, but I do, it does remind me of also this situation. I think you have been opposed to the Tommy Tuberville hold on military advancements, but I keep thinking, Joe Biden could stop this at the drop of a hat by just removing his introduction of politics into the military with the abortion funding that has never been there, and he could make it all go away very, very quickly, and he should be pressured to do so if he would just stop turning our military into this social project to advance, abortion and radical trans ideology.
Yeah, we can hold two thoughts. Lloyd Austin was very wrong to do that. I think it's illegal under the Hyde Amendment, but the people that are being punished for Lloyd Austin and Joe Biden's policy are career colonels, captains, and admirals and generals, everyone promoting up. And the impact on the military is devastating. I was talking to a career naval officer yesterday about a friend of his who's got a star and is supposed to do a year-long deployment. That's a tough deployment. I'm not going to say where it is. It's going to be a very hard deployment. He doesn't even get to start it until people can move, and they can't move until people promote. It's going to be a fiasco in the career military for years to come, Molly. And I don't believe Tuberville knows what he's doing, actually.
I was talking to someone else whose dad was affected by this as well. But, this is why you should resolve it as quickly as possible. And the way to resolve it is to stop doing the awful thing. And I think that people should pressure Biden to back off from this because, likewise, if you want to talk about lifelong problems, what they're doing with the radical trans ideology, with the abortion funding, that will be impossible to get rid of if you don't get rid of it on the front end. And
the analogy, and I haven't thought this through, radical trans ideology, if you wanted to it'd be like holding up the appointment of the head of a medical center that has nothing to do with trans issues. It just has nothing to do with it. And it's like shooting at every target in the room. I want to give you the last word. I really think we've got to talk to the senator from Alabama. And there's a reason other Republicans aren't being very vocal in support of him. Some are going through the pro forma stuff. But they know, I don't think he knows what he's doing to people. The minimum number of years in uniform that someone has to be affected by this is 22. And so and he's done it to 270 people with 22 years of service in the United States military. I do not understand it.
You allow this stuff to take over. We won't even have a military. We'll certainly not have a prepared fighting force if we allow the left to keep attacking.
Well, we're getting there more quickly if we do not, if we lose our best people and we don't move them into the jobs, we will lose our best people. It's truly one guy's opinion on how to fix a problem, and it's if all you got is a hammer, everything looks like a nail time. Mollie Hemingway, MZ Hemingway on X, by the way, not Twitter anymore. MZ Hemingway on X. We'll talk about that next week.